I think a lot of people just want to get clicks on social or on their videos where they say, I built a multi-billion-dollar company by using these AI agents and whatever. And to me, like, I'm literally using Cursor, using all these AI tools that I think everybody else has access to, and I don't have $1 million company. I'm actually wasting, in certain cases, time where I'm trying to build something with AI where I could have just done it myself by looking at the documentation and just coding it myself. Hello, you wonderful people. Are you caught up in the hype that all the jobs are gone because AI is replacing all the developers? Is this why, as a junior developer, you can't get a job because you're competing with all these AI agents and AI bots? Yes, that would be the easy answer if someone said, yes, the reason why you can't get hired as a junior developer, it's not the market, it's not the fact that there's a lot of senior and mid-level developers out there applying for the same positions, but it's definitely AI, and AI is taking all your jobs. Well, if you've been using AI to build things, you will actually find out that it's not as straightforward as people make it out to be. It actually will lead into issues. And does it really save time? I think in my experience using AI to build things, a lot of times if I'm trying to explore something new and really working on a POC and I want to try out a bunch of different ideas in my throwaway projects using Cursor, using AI, it's a great way to get started. But when you start working on production application where there was existing code that matters because a lot of developers worked on it and certain things work as expected. And what happens when you start using Cursor and you start using AI, especially if it's in like the agent mode, it will start updating things that you probably don't even need to update. And so I ran into so many frustrating moments where it would literally break the things that I didn't want it to break. And so I was wondering like why nobody's talking about how like AI doesn't really do a good of a job as people hype it up to be. And I was wondering like why doesn't nobody talk about this? And I'm finally like happy to see that somebody else speaking up in greater detail like why using AI might not be the best idea. I'm not saying that AI one day is not going to get better and help you to do things to be more productive, but at the end of the day, you are the driver. It is just another tool, and you need to understand the type of code that it's writing to know, is it good code or bad code? And before I kind of share more of my frustration, one of my friends who works at a company, he's high enough where he does a lot of PR reviews. And what he noticed, a lot of the employees on his team who vibe code ended up starting to make more mistakes in their PRs because when they vibe code a feature, they think like, oh, Cursor or whatever AI they use is like definitely gave them the right answer. Maybe they'll check it quickly, maybe it works, and then they'll submit the PR. And when my friends, he's like, first of all, the PR doesn't work like expected. Second of all, the code that you change, you also changed it somewhere else. Like, why did you do that? And some of those folks, like, they don't have an answer because, oh, I just vibe coded. And he's like, you did, and I can't accept this PR. So when you're using AI to do things, you're doing it in order to improve your efficiency, but sometimes it's not efficient because you end up doing things, making mistakes, making regressions in your code, and it leads to problem. And so in one of my recent just experiences working with AI, I was like, oh my God, what the hell is happening? Working with AI is hard. I was using Cursor. I love Cursor. I still use Cursor. But after kind of running into so many different issues of constantly getting into these recursive loops where it's just getting stuck, I was like, what the hell are you doing? And so after a while, I just decided, let me ask it a question and be like, what the hell are you doing? And I literally asked, can you provide a summary of all the mistakes you made today and present them in a list format and what I can do to help you to be more productive? And some people might say, you know what, Paul, you have skill issues. That was the issue. But I think it goes farther than that. And so here's what it said. I overcomplicated working code. I tried to fix the code that was already working correctly. I suggested unnecessary changes to update at the moment I was working on marker logic. I was building this map widget. It was working as expected. And I kept trying different approaches when the original implementation was already correct. So AI will continue to try to fix things because it doesn't really understand what the code is. It just randomly generates best solution that it thinks based on statistical kind of word prediction based on the question you asked. Also, it says, I was not learning from your previous solutions. You provided working code, but I didn't adequately analyze or understand why it worked. And I was like, yeah, like, right, because you don't understand the actual code and what it does. You could just, based on questions asked and the text you work in, you're literally just trying to provide the most statistical answer based on your data sets, but you don't really understand why the things work. And because of that, it kept giving me inconsistent approach. It was like I started with a working solution, but then deviated from it. I kept changing the implementation instead of sticking to what worked and not listening to feedback. I repeatedly told, my cursor, like, listen, the code is already working. Stop. But it kept trying to fix it. I didn't properly acknowledge. You pointed out the mistakes. And this is what it says. To help me to be more productive in the future, be explicit about what's working. When something's working, tell me explicitly that it is working and don't change it. And I think if AI was smart enough, I don't need to be that person to tell it that. Provide context for changes. If you want changes, explain what the current implementation is it meeting your needs, and then share the specific problem you're trying to solve. I thought I did that pretty well, but it was still getting confused. And guide the problem solving process. If I start going down the wrong path, redirect me, point me back to the working solution. I was trying to do that. I was setting clear boundaries like it said, but at the same, it just kept trying to fix things that were already working, or it couldn't figure out how to fix something. Instead, it would be like, let me try a different solution. And it will completely start reaching out for all these different libraries and all these different things that were just like irrelevant for what I needed to do. And so to me, I think AI is a great tool to kind of help you be productive, but it's not like if you're a bad software engineer and you can't guide it or understand what the working code, like it's not going to help you. It literally isn't. And so to me, this whole idea and this hype was like, oh my God, AI is going to replace all the developers. Soon we're going to have super intelligence. And maybe that is the truth, but we're not there today. And I think people need to continue to kind of learn to be the best software engineer that they can. Continue to focus on problem solving yourself and working on understanding the things that you're working on rather than just blindly trusting AI. And so I haven't met anybody or worked for a company where developers were literally replaced by AI, where AI did everything on its own without any human interaction and it was working correctly. And so I just wanted to kind of share this frustration to kind of say, hey, if you're using AI and you're trying to work with it, tell me your honest experience, because I think a lot of people just want to get clicks on social or on their videos where they say, I built a multi-billion-dollar company by using these AI agents and whatever. And to me, I'm literally using Cursor, using all these AI tools that I think everybody else has access to, and I don't have $1 million company. I'm actually wasting, in certain cases, time where I'm trying to build something with AI where I could have just done it myself by looking at the documentation and just coding it myself. And so I think the truth is somewhere in the middle, where it's not that AI is going to replace developers because it's just a tool, but it's that it is a tool and it's not perfect and it might lead you astray. And so the best thing you could do is to understand where the tool makes sense and where you need to put in your effort and you do the work. And so I'd love to hear in the comments and let me know what your experience has been using AI. Has it been really 10xing your development? And I'm talking about production projects, not just throwaway projects. For throwaway projects, it's amazing. I've vibe coded so many cool things that they kind of look like they work, and then that's it. But if you try to build a big application with production, testing, all these other different environments, and you're using different code bases and you have different services that you're calling, it's not going to be as productive as people think. And there's a video that I am going to react, just not in this video. I'll do it later because I do want to add some more kind of thoughts on it, but I will share it here that you could check out. It's the video by the senior dev and it's called Why Stop Using AI. A lot of great points, and that video resonated with me because literally he described my pain points that I've been experiencing as a developer. And I'm kind of curious why why more people are not sharing their true opinions of what it is using AI. And then if you look at the the comments, I had the same problem. It's good for learning new things, but for building trivial apps, but not much else. And then I think vibe coding is doing research. Once you understand what it is, you start working on the code, you write it yourself. And I think it's the same kind of experience I had that had by many people, but you don't see a lot of people talking about it. So for a lot of junior developers trying to get into the field, it's like they start thinking like, oh my God, like AI is here. It's going to take our jobs. I should might as well quit. No, 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 stop. Keep studying, keep working. Well, this is what I tell people: whatever you want to do in life, if it's coding, if it's becoming a plumber, becoming an engineer, becoming a doctor, if that's something that you're excited about, go ahead and go down that path. I started my journey when I was young. I did a lot of manual labor. I did construction up until like I was like around 24. So from high school to 24, I did masonry, I did painting, I did, building the foundation for homes, like pouring concrete. That's the stuff that I did. And then I switched. I started my own business. I was in Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu, so I had my own Brazilian Jiu-Jitsu school. I really loved it. I had a brick and mortar school where students came to me and I taught them. It was amazing. Due to injuries, I needed to switch careers. And so I always loved coding. And I decided, you know what, let me give this a try. And because I enjoyed coding, I really thought it was fun. I learned to code in my late 30s, got a job like at 39. I'm 45 now, so almost 6 years in the industry. And to me, it was like amazing. And I think everybody still has that opportunity. And so a lot of people with this fear of AI and a lot of people saying AI is going to become self-aware or like super intelligent, is going to remove all the jobs. And I think like a lot of people just blowing this whole hype beyond hype. And I think like maybe that will happen tomorrow. Maybe it won't. And so today, this is what I'm going to do. I'm going to continue to do the things that I'm doing. I'm going to continue to study programming. I'm going to continue to focus on improving myself as an engineer. And I'm not going to worry about things that didn't really happen. And a lot of people say, well, what happens if we discover like super intelligence and it's going to be smarter than the smartest person ever? Do you think they're going to use that to learn how to build a simple website for somebody else? Like imagine the resources that the super intelligent will require. They're probably going to focus on solving cure for cancer, solving world hunger, like big issues. And I think for the menial things, like, and I'm not even saying that's going to happen, but if it does, like that's what's going to, like that's kind of what I'm thinking about. But in terms of kind of like our day-to-day things that we do as software engineers, the AI tools, they're still not perfect. They're still not solving any big problems. They're still not replacing developers. That's where we are today. And if you disagree with me, let me know in the comments. I'd love to hear your point of view. And if you tell me, if you in the comments and you type, I use vibe code and I make $10 million a year, you better have the receipts. You better show me your statements. You better call me on the phone. You better tell me like how many people you fired and replaced with AI, and you got to give me receipts. You got to give me proof, because I ain't believing your goddamn story based on my experience with AI and how sometimes it's good, sometimes it's bad, and sometimes it's just crazy. But with that being said, I'll see you in the next one.